Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. And here it is, Phil. It is the official end of the college basketball season. And the Michigan Wolverines went out with a bang on Monday night with a pretty incredible performance to wrap up what was really a terrific season for the Wolverines.
The defensive effort was astounding on both sides, UConn and Michigan. And long into the night, there were texts going back and forth with managers and families and support staff. And Damari Burnett, who's a starter, Will Cheddar, who plays, Harrison Hochberg, who is a walk-on member of the team. And then to give a shout-out to him, Dusty May is not a guy that I knew. I had a brief encounter with him when I was leaving and he was coming in. And I texted him, and I just read before we went on the air, and he answered me back at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully he was celebrating and not going into the transfer portal, but we'll talk about that.
He might be, yeah,
at another time. So the championship, was fortunate enough to be in Indianapolis, and what a decision by the NCAA. Everybody wants to blast the NCAA, and they, we're going to Congress to fix sport. But if they could take their one shining moment, it would have been last week in Indianapolis when they put the Division II championship, the Division III championship, the NIT semifinals and final, the Final Four semifinals and final, all in Indianapolis, where you can walk everywhere. You can walk to restaurants, you can walk to church, you can walk to the hotels. So to the NCAA, whoever came up with that idea, standing ovation, very well done. It was truly a championship feeling throughout the city and throughout the week and the weekend. And then just because I can't help myself, Make a Difference is making a difference with all of you at the NCAA who are watching. Do the exact same thing in Detroit next year. Because while all that was going on, the high school prep schools were holding their national championship in Fishers, Indiana, which was, as the crow cries or the flies or whatever that is, wasn't that far. And they were also able to take in the young players. USA Basketball ran their junior national camp, basketball beyond basketball. And shout out to Indianapolis. The people are so very kind. And to the NCAA. Let's do it again in Detroit.
I don't want to date myself or age myself. I don't know what metaphor or adage you were
As
going
the
with
crow
there.
flies, isn't that like a direct line or something? You never heard that?
I do not know. No.
You need to really work.
But
didn't you major in English?
No, journalism. It's a
all right, well,
far cry from English.
Well, you wrote in English, so that's
we did. Yeah.
But how about this? Basketball's not done. All-Star Labor Classic. When? April 12th at Holy Family. What are we talking about? We're talking about a dinner on Thursday night, practices on Friday, the game Sunday, but the game starts with the Legends of Philadelphia basketball will take on the Labor Union All-Star team. Then the boys' game will be played. Then the girls' game will be played. Tickets are still available. And here's the beauty of all this. To me, it's the beauty of basketball, and it's beautiful about Philadelphia basketball. There's a charitable wing where they've raised almost $300,000 for babies and NICU units. It's fascinating. And we are so delighted to be joined by Maura Gilroy from Haverford High School and Jack Naegle from the Shipley School, who have been nominated. Remember last week we talked about this. You first must be nominated, not just for the player that you are, but for the person and the student that you are. And then you have to be selected by this esteemed group, this esteemed board that selects them. So we're joined by two of the All-Stars who have had legendary high school careers, and we're going to talk to them right now. So, Maura, welcome to Make a Difference. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Maura, you got the phone call, or maybe your coach came to you and said, "You've been selected." What did that feel like?
I just thought of it as a really great opportunity. It was really like exciting to find out that I was going to be playing in the game, and I think it's just a great way to have people come together and just play the game that they love.
Jack, same question. How'd you
Um,
find out? Who told you? And what was your response and your family's response?
so I found out I was actually on a trip for school, this DECA trip it's like a business club. It was pretty fun up in Hershey. And I was with my friend who also plays basketball with me. And my coach sent me a text and he was like, "Oh, you were selected for this all-star game." And he was like, "You get $1,000 scholarship for college and it's a big opportunity." And I was just really blessed. I was telling my friend and he was happy for me too. And then I texted my mom and I was like, "Mom, can I do this?" And she was like, "Yeah, of course."
Jack, hit that again. Every player in the game gets $1,000, whether they're going Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, if they're going to play another sport in college. Maura, were you aware that you were getting $1,000 scholarship?
When I received the text, yeah, I was, and that's what really made me so ecstatic, and my family, for sure.
Maura, how are you going to use that $1,000?
I think just putting it towards school is what's going to help. I mean, a little bit goes a long way, so it's really like a big deal.
So there's a charitable wing, and I'm going to brag about Maura. She's like at the top of the list in terms of the charitable wing. That part of this game, Maura, can you explain that to us? How did you go about raising all the money that you've done?
It's definitely just the people I have around me. A lot of the people were just friends and family that are close to me. We kind of just shared it out throughout the family and our close friends. And I think it was easy to fundraise for it because it's through the game that I love, but also the cause that it's going to. My mom's a nurse and I'm going to school to be a nurse, so it kind of like hit close to home. And it was just like a really big deal that it's not just a game, but it's also something that you're fundraising for. So it wasn't hard to do, and I want to thank my close people that I have around for helping me.
Yep. So, Jack, this world in Philadelphia, the basketball world is small, but the basketball world helps. We're always out there trying to help. This is another example. Can you, as a young person, can you understand the power of Philadelphia basketball? And can you explain it? We have people all over the country that watch this podcast. Can you explain to them how powerful it is to play basketball in the Philadelphia area?
I feel like it's very powerful, and I can speak from like my family. Like my mom played, my uncle played, and my grandpa. They all played in the PCL, and they know a lot of people in the area. My grandpa actually told me like that you went to Kenrick, and he went there too. So that was a pretty neat connection, and yeah, just seeing all the stuff that's able to go down because of the competition, because of the tight knit community we have.
So people will get upset, Jack. I coached at Kenrick, but the people in Norristown would never let me play at Kenrick. I played at St. Joe's Prep, but you are absolutely positively correct in that the close knit community. And if somebody needs us, and that's what's happening here with these young babies and their families, they need us, and we're able to use the basketball to lift others up. So I salute both of you for being selected, for being nominated, first and foremost, for being selected, and then for giving back. That's what we're all charged to do. And Jack, I want to start with you. You've said it a couple of times, but I want to give you this opportunity. Talk to us about your teammates and your coaches and how they've helped you grow using the game of basketball.
I feel like at my school, especially this year, we had a really tight knit group of seniors, and we'd all been playing together for a few years. We were able to push each other, make each other better. And I have a younger brother who's a freshman, and me and him are always going at it in the gym, using each other to get better, and then like leaning on coaches and mentors around us to help us get to where we want to be.
And do you have teammates that will come out to the game, or are they going to be swamped with playing their own games this weekend?
I'm sure if I asked, I could get a few of them to come for sure.
Well, you make sure that you tell them that they can be the guest of Make a Difference podcast. All right, Jack?
Awesome, I will.
All right, Maura, how about the same question? Your coaches, your teammates, the people in that building at Haverford High School who have lifted you up. Brag about them, please.
Yeah, I think my teammates and my coaches definitely played a huge part in my success this season. Just from we had a younger group this year, so it was 2 seniors and then the rest were underclassmen. So it was a different kind of group to have on the court, but I think just we all continuously picked each other up, and just having those girls surrounding me is what made the season possible and is what made just everything possible throughout the season. And then having my coaches, and we had a couple new coaches that joined the crew this year, so it was good having them. They're always just encouraging, pushing me to play as hard as I can, give it all I have, and they always had my back the whole entire season.
So the suburban girls versus the city girls, who do you think is going to be favored in that game?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game. I think there's good competition on both ends.
And that's what this is all about. Competition, giving back. Sunday, April 12th at Holy Family. And you could tell why they were nominated. Forget their stats. You could tell Jack and Maura were nominated for the people that they are. And to use this game and to use that ball to help others, I salute both of you and thank you for joining Make a Difference.
Thank you very
for having
much.
us.
Maura, Jack, thank you both very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Just two terrific young student athletes. Again, really excited for this Sunday at Holy Family, the All-Star Labor Classic. I'm sure tickets still available.
Tickets are still available. You go online, sign up. They'll and watch. Don't tell anybody. It's free.
Okay.
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, what more do you
But
need?
you sign up.
Yeah.
So you say, well, how can I help? That's what you do. Drop something in a bucket, concessions, t-shirt, whatever it is. But think about it. The tickets are free.
That's a layup.
You know what they say? If it's free, it's me.
I hear that.
There you go. And we'll probably even present a Martelli minute.
You think so?
During the game or before the game. The Martelli Minute brought to you by statussolutions.com. What's Status Solutions doing? Making schools safe for all of our children, all of our grandchildren, all the children in your community. Let them go to school to learn and to be safe. Status Solutions, we appreciate you. And Dale Carnegie, they're still out there, right? We still have a scholarship we're sitting on. We're going to get somebody in that program.
That's right. If you're looking for more information on that, send an email to makeadifferencepodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can look into getting that Gail Carnegie scholarship as well for their course.
The Martelli Minute. Every morning, 6:30, Instagram, Phil_Martelli. Take pride in being a lifelong learner. When defining your purpose, remember to subtract, not add. What does that do? It brings you a clearer vision and a lighter heart. If you have too many things going on, piles up, you feel a little bit oppressed. Let it go. Clearer vision, lighter heart. Love yourself. Make excellence a standard, not an outcome. This is a good one in the world that we all live in today. Never enter into a debate with a person who has no willingness to listen. You don't have to be right. You deserve to be heard. Let me give you that one again. Never enter into a debate with a person who has no willingness to listen. You don't have to be right, but you deserve to be heard. Simply by being kind, you have the ability to make the world a better place. Focus your energy and your efforts on people, not projects. Martelli Minute every morning.
6:30 a.m.
6:30
on Instagram.
Yep. Phil_Martelli.
That's the one.
And they keep coming. I was told while I was at the Final Four that I had missed. So I had to call my
I like that people were keeping you accountable.
I had to call my social media guru and say, did we miss? And it looks like we did. I apologize. But we're not going to miss. We're not going to miss after you hear this guest.
Is that right?
Holy mackerel. Again, it wears me out. I prep and I'm like, wait a second, how are we going to get to all of these questions? But the guest segment, again, do you know that who we are talking to this week?
Well, let's lay it on the listeners, the viewers here.
Well, first of all, St. Louis Cardinal fan, and they do call St. Louis like the baseball capital of the world because the people show up and the Fightins might want to have a conversation about.
I was going to say, I've been to Busch Stadium. It's a nice little stadium. It's fun. Yeah, it's cool.
Downtown, walkable.
I don't know if it compares to the bank, but might be some bias there.
As I went through this, I recognized all of a sudden that we had royalty in the written world. A royalty. We've done that in coaches, and we've done that with some sportscasters, but this is royalty. An extraordinary author, nominated author. Listen to the places where his written word has appeared. The Atlantic, the New Yorker, GQ, the Washington Post. This one blew me away. The Paris Review. We're not talking about some guy, writing on the back of a carton. This is serious. Grew up and raised in rural Illinois, but to find out if he was an Illinois fan this past week. Living now in New York with his wife and daughter. His first book, and you don't even know these names, but these names will chill sports fans and especially baseball fans. His first book, he wrote about Larry Doby. Who's Larry Doby? The second African-American to play Major League Baseball behind Jackie Robinson. Bob Feller. Bob Feller, I believe, probably at the age of 45, was still throwing 100. Satchel Paige. And then an extraordinary owner, Bill Veeck. He wrote a book about their team. And he follows that up. With right here, Moses and the Doctor. 2 men, 1 championship, and the birth of modern basketball. This is a fascinating read. Please welcome to Make a Difference, Luke Epplin. Luke, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Phil, that was a great introduction. Thank you.
Moses and the Doc. Unbelievable. How and why Moses and the Doc?
Well, you had mentioned that my first book was about Larry Doby. And what I loved about that book was channeling integration and thinking about the way the 2 different leagues, the major leagues and the Negro leagues, were sort of running parallel to each other and then suddenly crossed. And whenever they crossed, there was all these tension, and there were different styles of play, and there were different ways of approaching the sport. And that all had to be hashed out in the major leagues over the next decade or so. And my favorite sport is basketball. So I thought after I finished that book, had that happened in basketball, where you had something similar occur, and I started thinking about the American Basketball Association and the way that the ABA innovated different modes of play, different styles of approaching the game. And what happened whenever that league merged with the NBA, which was a more sort of traditionalist league dominated by big men mostly. And so I just needed to find the right characters. And there's no better character than Julius Erving. He was the ABA. He looked like the ABA. He acted like the ABA. He was the ABA. And so that started me on the journey.
So, Luke, all the time in these conversations, I end up with a personal story. So I have a personal story about Dr. J for the Long Island Nets, right? Before they became the Jersey Nets, the ABA had rated the NBA for their officials, not for their players. They rated them for their officials. So Ed Rush, dear friend, husband of Kathy Rush, Naismith Hall of Famer who coached my wife at Immaculata. I'm a senior in college, and Ed asked me if I wanted to go to an ABA game on Long Island. Drove to his house in Westchester, went to the game. There were about 400 or 500 people at this game, Nassau Coliseum. Dr. J versus Dan Issel and Artis Gilmore of the Kentucky Colonels. Jared is sitting here looking at me like I'm speaking some. Luke, take us through the ABA. Tell us all about the ABA, please.
Well, let's stick on that image that you just gave us, because that's such a great way of getting into the ABA. Because you said that you have these legendary figures in Gilmore and Issel, and especially Julius Erving, and they're playing before 400 people in Long Island, which is kind of what the ABA was. You had all of this amazing, dazzling talent that were doing things that were just kind of unreal to think about, but seen by so few. They had no national television contract. And so in that way, a lot of people told me that, writers that covered this, players that played in the ABA, that if you did not see Julius Erving in the ABA, you actually didn't see Dr. J. Because that's where he was Dr. J. He was at his youngest then. His knees weren't that bad yet. And he was doing things that people had not seen before with the basketball. But because it was the ABA, and because the ABA was a struggling, fledgling league that was trying to compete for talent and eyeballs and all that stuff with the NBA, they were trying to get people to see their games. They were trying to sort of stay afloat. I mean, franchises were folding, moving, renaming, all that sort of stuff throughout their entire existence. And so Julius Erving became a legendary figure, not necessarily because people saw highlights of him. In fact, the opposite. It's because people didn't see him. And so therefore, the few people that were in that game that you saw were then telling their friends, you would not believe what this one player did. And then it would go to their friends and then their friends. And then pretty soon, Dr. J was this epic, mythic figure that people could not wait to see. So that whenever finally the ABA does merge with the NBA, Dr. J was selling out stadiums across the league because for years they had heard about this person and so few people had really seen him. And now finally, it's like the veil was lifted and you got to see the full Dr. J experience.
Yeah, the nicknames, everything about the ABA was, and this is where I want to take the next question, because not only was Dr. J doing this in the ABA and people were whispering about it, Luke, I know, and in reading, the whole influence of the playground, the influence of outdoor basketball permeates your book, and it also carries through that ABA, I guess it's the right word, mythology, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The huge part of that first part of my book is about the two different styles of play. Basketball is rare in that among the American sports that were sort of cultivated here, it was cultivated as an indoor sport. It was originally sort of formed that way, and it was very coach oriented, that sort of had set schematic plays, people going from station to station, the ball moving, that sort of thing. But there was an alternate style of play that starts to crop up outdoors on vacant lots, playgrounds, farmland, things like that, where people, that was more player oriented. And that's where people would try different moves that you just didn't think could stand in the outdoor game, because the coach would pull you from the game. They would say, take that back to the playground, if you tried what they called circus shots at that time. What I found really interesting is that if you go back to Dr. J's very earliest interviews in the 1960s and 1970s, he's talking about himself as an artist. He thinks of himself as a player, but he also thinks of himself as an artist. And he's out there on the playground practicing these up and under moves, these dunks, all these sorts of things, so that he could do them in games. So that whenever he does unleash these, now iconic moves that we can see in all the highlight films, he's done that so many times that it's almost like a free throw for him. He's just kind of like internalized the motions so that no coach would be able to blame him for taking the outdoor game indoors. And so he really sets the standard for this sort of idea of the athlete artist, or the sort of playground game that would now come to define modern basketball.
So in both of your books, the humanness of the subjects, Larry Doby, Dr. J, Moses, Bill Veeck, how do you capture that, Luke? You have a gift for it, but these are not just made up story. You have an ability to bring the humanness of your subjects.
Phil, I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'll just say, and by way of my background, I started as a novelist. I trained as a novelist. I wasn't very good as a novelist, as you can tell. I kind of failed. But I bring that idea that these stories need to be driven by character, and not just by games or by season or something like that. You have to find the humanness of what these people are, and that should drive the story. For this particular book, I'll tell you that I wanted it to be a book not only about the way that Dr. J and Moses had extremely opposing personalities, styles of play, the way that they pioneered. I wanted it to be also a book about failure. I think that if you go through the first, or particularly the second part of the book, it's them trying and trying and trying in the NBA to reach the mountaintop, to win a title, to hit the apex of their sport, and failing, often in very heartbreaking ways. And I knew I had a book whenever I saw a newspaper article, very briefly, one paragraph in a newspaper article, after the 1982 NBA Finals, when the Lakers had just beaten the Philadelphia 76ers in 6 games. They had to close the Sixers locker room because Dr. J was crying. And I was like, there it is right there. Why is Dr. J crying? And if you can pin that down, it's going to make his eventual championship all the more meaningful. And so what you said is exactly right. You've got to then capture the humanity of Dr. J in order for the readers to feel that.
The Philadelphia basketball with Doc and with Moses and with the 76ers, the impact on community. And is that different, Luke, than, and I don't mean this in a disrespect, but rural Illinois and the basketball impact, or let's say the frenzy that Indiana basketball has? Was there did you find a difference in the Philadelphia basketball impact in this community?
Yes, there absolutely is. As you mentioned, I'm from rural Illinois, which is very close to Indiana. In fact, I have an uncle who lives in Terre Haute, and so I used to go there all the time, see all the Larry Bird stuff. And so I'm well aware. I grew up near a town where Doug Collins, the great Philadelphia 76er, grew up. So it's definitely basketball country down there. But I would say that it is like, I guess if you've ever seen the movie Hoosiers, it's more like that. High school basketball rules the day down there. And particularly in the 70s, whenever the NBA and the ABA merged, there was a racial component to this. And Philadelphia, whenever Julius Erving joins the team, he joins a team with George McGinnis and Daryl Dawkins and all of these amazing players. Because there's so many players from the ABA and they're practicing a playground style of basketball, they got characterized as a sort of urban black team. And when they go against the Portland Trailblazers in 1977, who are led by Bill Walton and coached by Jack Ramsey, that becomes a stand-in for a more sort of white, let's say, rural style of basketball. And so you saw those two styles clashing, and the results were almost existential. Like, people were saying, if Philadelphia wins, that's it. It's just going to be playground basketball from here on out. There was a huge racial component to that. And it's something that the Sixers really have to overcome over the next 6 or 7 years as they continually try to win the championship. They are basically almost like a stand-in for the ABA, because they have Bobby Jones and Moses Malone and George McGinnis and Caldwell Jones, all of these great ABA players on that team. And they have to prove to the NBA that the style of play in the ABA can be a winning style of basketball, and that the ABA was not an inferior league. And it really kind of increases the burden, not only on the Sixers, but on Julius Erving himself.
I'm trying to find it. Oh, somebody described the book as a social history. Again, that idea of the social history, as you dig through the book, the Philadelphia scene at that time, did that team, I know Doc lifted the communities. Did you find the same thing with Moses and the connection? Like, you make a great point. Like, the front line of Doc, Bobby Jones, and Moses, kind of three different characters. And I don't mean that in a cartoon character, but they had three different approaches to their craft.
Absolutely. It's an interesting question, because Philadelphia, it has a reputation for the way that their fans approach the athletic teams. And I don't know if it's always deserved, but there was this sense back then that Philadelphia was deindustrializing. A lot of people were leaving for the suburbs or elsewhere. It was a city that was hitting a bit of a rough spot, and there was a lot of racial tension that was coursing through the city. And what I found about Julius Erving is that he really places a huge burden on himself to be an ambassador, not only to the sport, but to the community. And he wants to bring people together. He constantly refers to himself as a crossover athlete. And so he wants those white ethnic enclaves of blue-collar workers to feel just as positively about him and the team as, Black communities during that time as well. And so he's constantly bridging and trying to knit together groups that are somewhat at odds with each other. Moses Malone is very different. Moses Malone, if Julius Erving thought of himself as an artist, Moses Malone thought of himself as a laborer. He kind of comes in, he punches the clock, he gives everything he has. He sweats, he labors, he bleeds, whatever he needs, and then he punches out, and he doesn't really feel that obligation to talk to the media, to do community events, whatever. But Philadelphia loves him because in his very being, he is that sort of scrappy Philadelphia character that they take to. And so even though he's not making as much effort as Julius is in his off-court activities, Moses Malone becomes just as beloved and just as much of a Philadelphia symbol as Dr. J at that time.
Luke, it's always been my thing, lifelong Philadelphian and a lunatic sports fan in Philadelphia. It's always been my thing that in this city, you can admire and respect and love Mike Schmidt, the greatest third baseman, right? But at the same time, there was a whole other level of love and respect for Pete Rose. And I would always say it's because people say, well, Pete Rose got his hands dirty.
Yes.
Mike Schmidt was like this gift. And that was, Doc really did. He had these gifts, and you'd be like, wow, that's. But at the same time, with Moses on that team, you would say, yeah, you know what? Moses walked into the corner bar and had a beer with us.
Yeah, I would say that it's more that Philadelphians, yeah, I think you're right. They admired Julius Erving the way that you would admire a public figure or a statue or something, where it's beautiful. You can appreciate the artistry and things like that. But there was a visceral admiration for Moses Malone. There was more of a sort of, you felt it in your gut, and you also just felt that, yeah, that he walked among us. Like, he's giving that effort that we expect from our athletes. Dr. J was so cool. He never even seemed to sweat. You look at a game with him in the fourth quarter, he looks like he's just taken off his warm-ups. That's unfair to him because he's giving just as much effort. But he just has a different way of, like you said, Mike Schmidt too is giving a lot of effort, but the fans perceive it differently.
No doubt about it. So your first two projects, sports, and this love of sport, how does it translate? How does it motivate you those days you get up and, whether you have the proverbial writer block or whatever, love of sport comes through your writing.
Yeah.
How does that for you translate?
What you said earlier about me being a St. Louis Cardinals fan, I am from around St. Louis. My dad had season tickets. He was one of those guys that had the radio on to listen to every single Cardinals game. And back then, that was Jack Buck and Mike Shannon, these two incredible announcers who were also great storytellers. And so the background noise of my childhood was Jack Buck and Mike Shannon telling stories in between the play of a Cardinals game. And so I always thought of sports as being a storytelling medium. And so it's not like I look at sports and say I could be doing something more important. Like, sports is it just is kind of what I've always known my whole life. And so I never have to be motivated to do the stories. I know they're there because I grew up hearing stories. And so I recognize how you can use sports as a vehicle to touch on societal issues, human issues, issues of the heart, all those things.
And then not everybody out there can write. It is quite the challenge. Take us through that writing process. Start with, you come up with this idea, and then how do you get to this? How do you get to that?
The thing that I always try to do is I want to set everything in scene. And so you want to find out where you can be at your most vivid and where you can place your characters that are going to, make them three-dimensional. So often that's not in games. Games are important, obviously, but it's usually what happens kind of off the court. And so, for example, whenever the merger happens for the ABA and the NBA, Julius Erving holds out, and he refuses to report to the New York Nets at that time. And I knew that there was something important going on there that was to his personality. And so you call everybody that you know around there. I talked to Pat Williams. I talked to John Nash. I talked to Bill Melchioni, who was the GM of the New York Nets. And you say, walk me through day by day. Tell me exactly your discussion driving with Julius Erving, what he was doing, and all this sort of stuff. And you just try to piece enough together that you can tell it in scene. And so you want to make it as exciting and interesting and all that as you can. As for the writing itself, I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to really love short stories, and I would sit there in my bed late at night and kind of write them out longhand to try to figure out the flow of sentences and how a writer pieced them together. So it's just something I've always done, and so I wouldn't really know how to teach that.
Yeah, it is just fascinating to me to have that ability. And you said it earlier, like you wanted a picture. So as you're reading this, you can almost feel like Doc or raising up or Moses. Like really, he created he created a term in a lot of basketball worlds about a Moses. It was a Moses rebound. What it was a missed shot where he got his own rebound.
Yeah.
You know, now they want to get analytical and say, well, his second jump timing and No. That's a Moses rebound. He got his own ball back because he knew it missed. Right, Luke? He knew it missed before anybody else on the court knew it missed.
Oh, yeah, and sometimes he didn't always care about accuracy. Sometimes he would just have confidence that if he made it, he made it. But if he missed, he was pretty confident he was going to get it. Phil, can I ask you something? Were you in Philadelphia during this time in the early 1980s?
Sure, I was. So I graduated college in '76.
Oh wow! So that's when your Julie serving came.
Right. I started. I graduated college in '76, and remembered on. It might have been the news channel. I was coming back from teaching school, and they announced Julius Erving, Dr. J, is coming to Philadelphia. I remember they announced it. And wherever I was later that day, I was probably at a high school open gym because I was a high school coach. And I would say to somebody, Julius Erving is coming to Philadelphia. And it didn't register. And I did what you said earlier. And I would say, oh, well, you have to see this to believe it.
Yeah.
You really have to see it to believe it. So fast forward, I coach high school JV basketball. I coach Division III assistant coach, and then I'm a head high school coach. So in 1983, I was a head high school coach in the Philadelphia Catholic League, and it was like that buildup of those names, like Bobby Jones is coming to town or Moses is coming to town, and you said it, the year before. Daryl Dawkins and Maurice Lucas square off in like maybe one of the all-time fights before Malice in the Palace. Like these two guys stood at half court in the NBA Finals and had a straight-up fist fight. Right? And Daryl Dawkins was again this character. He came from high school and he looked like Adonis playing on this team with I have Luke, I could do story after story after story, including the 66-67 Sixers playing the San Francisco Warriors in the World Championship. And my grade school coach took me in the game buying a ticket from a scalper. And the scalper took us under the building. We snuck in the building going through a sewer pipe and then up to get into the game for I think it was game 5. Sixers lost that day. And game 6 was in San Francisco and they won their world championship in 66-67. So this is in my blood. This right here was like, this is my wheelhouse and the Walton team beating the Sixers, and they were like a machine, like because of Dr. Jack running his fast break system, and Rick Adelman was on that team. So yeah, this is it for me. Like Philadelphia sports, but I will say right now, and Jared will back this up. He's a football guy. I live and die on every pitch
Mhm.
from the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'm hoping that we can ride Bryce Harper here to a world championship.
We'll see.
We'll see. So thank you, Luke. But we always end two things. Projects ongoing right now. Do you have something else in the pipeline?
Yeah, I want to go back further, and I want to go back into the 60s and talk about the radical changes that were going on in the 60s through the figure of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor back then. So that should be the next one.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. That's
It's going to be fun.
you'll be at Power Memorial. I don't even know if that building stands anymore, but
It does.
Power Memorial against the Matha. That's a
Yep.
legendary high school game.
Mhm.
And then, Luke, we always finish our guest segment with a thank you. But who's made a difference in your life?
Well, I was a high school athlete as well. My big thing was track. My coach, Dan Newkirk, was a huge influence on me. And people might think that, running and riding don't have anything to do with each other, but that's simply not true. I was a long distance runner. So much of long distance is just learning how to pace yourself and how to understand that even if you're fatigued, you should still keep going. The same thing applies to riding, which is its own marathon. And so I really think that without that training by Dan Newkirk, I wouldn't be the rider I am.
Well, I'm not just talking basketball, but people that want to know like the sport influence on society. Again, a reviewer called it a social history. Moses and the Doctor, two men, one championship, and the birth of modern basketball. Luke, thank you. You've blessed us by joining us.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it.
Luke, thank you so much. Appreciate you, man.
Unreal.
Really, really great stuff. I know that what did that maybe take you a day to flip through?
A little bit more.
Yeah, okay. You taking your time with it. Because I assume that you were just you know half the stories that might be in there, right?
Yeah.
You saw so many of those games.
He just chills. He says Dr. Jack, Bill Walton, and like that was Bill Walton. That was, I know he's a Hall of Famer, but that was Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore, Bill Walton with the Portland Trailblazers. Bobby Gross, Rick Adelman. They were so good, and the Sixers were so close. And it was schematic versus the most elite schoolyard basketball. I had never thought about that, like the validation of the ABA through that Sixers team. But there you go. That's why we do the guest segment.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
stuff.
Luke, thank you.
Yeah, our thanks again to Luke. An incredible book, Moses and the Doctor, available now for anyone looking to get their copy. Any Hoops fan should probably have that on their bookshelf.
Has to. Yeah. And then that leads us into coaching corner. Like,
well,
we've done this before where we've kind of said, well, the season's over, but I still think we have to coach. We have to coach parents and CEOs and all the people that are.
I got a coach's corner. I'll let you tee it off, but I got a coach's corner question for you.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'd like to suggest to everybody out there who's coaching, and we know that everybody coaches, that this is a good time to reinforce, refocus your foundations. So people would say, well, are you man-to-man? Are you zone? Do you want to press? Do you want to run? Just go back to your foundations in your life, in your company, in your family, on your teams. So my foundations, daily improvement. Every day, are we committed to being a better person, a better student, then a better player, and then overall, a better team? Second thing I always look for to work on was communication. Person-to-person communication, player to coach, coach to coach, administrator, So you're the CEO. How are you communicating with your housekeeping department? All of those forms of communication. And unfortunately, today, because of these phones, everybody thinks I'm communicating with all these people. I'm talking about eye to eye, because the eyes tell you what's in the heart, that type of communication. Measure yourself. How much time are you doing that per day? And how much time are you eyes down, just scrolling through your phone, scrolling through your email? Really work on your communication, your personal communication, your team communication. And then the last thing is respect. Respect given to the person that's in front of you, respect to their opinions. Most importantly, in today's world, respect each other's differences. Yelling and screaming, slamming of doors, turning our back on people is not going to get us anywhere. Respect each other's differences. What was that Martelli minute? Never argue with a person who is unwilling to listen. You deserve respect. You deserve to be heard. None of us are always right, but none of us are always wrong. And all of us deserve the respect of being listened to. That's the coaching corner.
No, I got one for you, and it's in the spirit of Moses and the Doctor. You think about the inflection point of the ABA and the NBA and how it was the merging of classic schematic basketball versus playground ball. You as a coach, obviously you have sets, you have ATOs, you have all these things planned for your players. You want things to be a well-oiled machine. I mean, watching that national championship game, you watch some of the sets and some of the variations of sets that like a UConn has, and it's really impressive offensive basketball to watch. But then sometimes you just have a guy that's out there that's better than everybody else. You say, give him the ball and get out of his way. I mean, how do you manage that as a coach, yo-yoing between, hey, let's find the best shot, let's get this, and then sometimes you just need to give the ball to your best player and
really
let
good,
him go.
really good question. And my answer to that is, as a coach, this is me personally, I had no interest in teaching plays. I didn't want you to perfect my blue play. But what I wanted you to do was to be able to play. So what do you have? How do you practice? How do you do skill development where I teach you how to play, not my plays? And you do have to let go of your ego, because when you're teaching how to play, it's an imperfect game. So you're going to see mistakes. You're going to see unusual plays. Last night there was a flurry, and the biggest bucket of the game was a flurry. And they outletted the ball to the 7-3 Maura kid and then everybody's scrambling for the ball. He passes the ball backwards. Somebody almost steals that ball. The ball breaks loose, and the freshman from Michigan, Trey McKinney, picks the ball up and hits a three. That ended the game. The competitive nature
That
of
was
the game.
the biggest swing right there, right? And that was a broken play.
It was a broken
you can
play.
run all the sets you want.
So, yeah, exactly right. So what are you doing in your practice sessions to say, here's how we play? And to me, one of my concerns, even with my own grandchildren, they'll say, I worked out. Players are always working out. Everybody has a trainer. They're working out. But if you said, when's the last time you played basketball? Well, we had a game. No. When's the last time you played basketball? When's the last time you showed up with 5 other players and played 3-on-3? 7 other players and played 4-on-4? When's the last time you went to a court and there were 15 guys and you figured out how to pick sides, how to referee your own game, how to play winners, and how to give that game respect? So it's a fine line, but you have to release your ego and say, my play, my one play, my blue play, my gold offense, my brown defense is not stronger than having guys on the floor that know how to play basketball.
I think one thing I always took away from the Phil Martelli basketball camps was anytime in that open period before you get rolling with the start of the day and drills. And if you have kids shooting around, you'd always walk around and say, "What are you doing? You got 4, play 2s. You got 6, play 3." And I knew you would hate to see that 21 or 35 junk, all that stuff. And that always stuck with me. Even if I have 2 other friends, we'll do king of the court, just rotating ones, because it's like no one plays. You get nothing from playing a junky kind of game. Like, just play basketball, right?
Play basketball. And the season has come. That part has come, but I still have a lot of places to go.
I can imagine. Busy guy.
And I want to just go through where I was. Great meeting with one of our guests, Josh Verlin, City of Basketball Love. He's trying to restructure everything to make sure that the high school players at all levels get coverage. So we're going to try to do some things with him, maybe even under the umbrella of Make a Difference. At the Final Four, people say, well, what do you got? Is it just the games? No, there's a convention. And when we got there Thursday, we were able to visit with some of the NABC, National Association of Basketball Coaches, the leadership with them, went to the NIT semifinals, Hinkle Fieldhouse, where Hoosiers was filmed. Saw those games. Friday, got to move around again. Did CEOs versus cancer as a representative of Coaches versus Cancer. Got to meet some CEOs who are going to help us crush cancer. Saw a number of Michigan people, families, fans. Thank them for their kind words. Saturday, again, Coaches versus Cancer, National Council. What are we going to do? What's next steps for that organization? Got to visit with Super Networking. Fascinating opportunity for student athletes to go beyond NIL money. What are they going to do with the rest of their lives? The semifinals, a Midwestern downpour like you don't see often. Then Easter Sunday, Mass out the door. Great to visit with everybody. And then the NIT final. I did not go over to the Division II or the Division III final, but they were all one ticket, all under one roof. A lot of basketball. And the NABC All-Star game where they selected Phil Martelli Jr. to be the coach. So sat and watched those young guys play some good basketball, some real good basketball, but just setting up where we will go. So I know you get tired sometimes, but even writing this out. The Markwood Luncheon, Player of the Year in Philadelphia, Coach of the Year in Philadelphia, Suburban Player of the Year, Suburban Coach of the Year, men's, women's, Joe Rabzinski, who's been a guest on our show, going to attend their luncheon. Hank Nichols, legendary referee, passed away. Going to make sure that I visit with his family at his viewing. Hank was a professor at Villanova in the education department while he was refereeing. He refereed every big game. When people see his picture, they'll say, oh, yeah. And he refereed when there were 2 guys on the court, not 3. The All-Star Labor Classic, they'll have their dinner on Thursday night. I get a chance to go there. CVC is running their gala on Saturday night downtown. And then Sunday, doubleheader. North Catholic Alumni Association honoring me for achievement and service to the Philadelphia community, the basketball community. And then I'll go over to the Labor Classic. I'll see the Labor guys play, the boys play, and the girls play. And then we will regroup for what may well be an epic podcast next Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, we actually haven't. We'll hash that out.
I have to check my list, but
we got one coming next week.
We're on the path. We're on a path.
Yeah, I know we're on your schedule, which we just went through. So it's wherever you can fit us in, but we know that we got to go one. We got to go one cooking next week. We know that.
In the NBA playoffs, and I'm confused as to whether the Flyers have made the playoffs or not make the playoffs. Sixers move game by game, in, out, playing games, but we do know that the playoffs start on the 20th.
18th. So we're getting there. We're barreling toward it. So
we're getting there. And again, we have quite the spring set up, but really looking forward to, again, make a difference. If we can help you, please reach out. If you have an idea for a guest, reach out. If you have a company that's saying, who are you reaching? Reach out. We want to make a difference this spring to another level.
And we got a great way to do that. You can head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com to get in touch with Phil to see how he can help you make a difference on the court, off the court, in the classroom, in the workplace, wherever you feel like a difference can be made. We are we're at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. At Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, we'd greatly appreciate that 5-star rating. And of course, if you are looking for that Martelli Minute, it is at Phil_Martelli on Instagram every morning at 6:30. Moses and the Doctor by Luke Epplin. That book is out now on the shelves. We will have a link to it on our pages as well. Definitely worth ordering that book if you are a hoops head like us. Phil, that's all I got for you. I think there's just one last thing to end it with.
Well, we do have to shout them out. They're in the first place again. After 10 games, first place. So we have to start.
152 to go?
There's 152 to go. I don't know the magic number, but we have one thing to say. Go Phils.
Go Phils.